And now we're recording. Hey, Amhead, welcome. Gliscor. I should have known that. I saw you follow like 2 minutes before I went live. There will not, actually, at least not one I have planned right now. I literally got PM like at 5 saying, are you going to stream today? I'm home, like, yeah, I probably should. Had to do some things first, though. So that's why there was a bit of delay. But instead, I think today I will be going over working with some stuff with you guys, and when we're done with the classwork, I'd be happy to sit down and work with you guys. And if no one needs work, heck, I have some stuff I need to work on. I'd be happy to stream for you guys and try to give you guys an example of my thought process. You'd probably should be able to follow it along at this point. It's something small. It's not Showdown. So, let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so one thing a lot of you guys have trouble with, like I said, is writing scripts. So, often it'll just be like, how do I know what to do is the question. Like, I don't know, maybe Leaf or someone else here can phrase it better than me of exactly what the frustration was, because I don't remember how I phrase it, but yeah, that the idea is you don't really, it's like the whole thing's too much at once. We're trying to do everything at once, etc. So, let me point something out quickly first. Like, I'll go to my usual file for this stuff. Like, if I look at this entire page at once or whatever, I have no idea what's going on here. Like, I know because I worked on this page. Let's just pick something I didn't do. How's that? This. I didn't do any of this. I have no idea what any of this is doing. Like, I could figure it out if I did a lot of research, but I don't know what it's doing. And that's pretty normal, and even when you're writing something, that's pretty normal. What you need to do is the first 5 steps again, but also I have some tips though. So first, let's go over those 5 steps from the beginning of the course again, just so we have those covered again. So your 5 steps for writing a script is you need to first determine your goal. So for these assignments, like the most recent one was the route assignment. So the goal there would be to simulate a Pokemon route, and there's all the instructions and details of what you exactly have to do in there. So we have our goal in mind overall. And then we need to design the script as step 2. So break what you need to do into individual tasks / steps. So that would involve breaking what you need to do down, like I said there. So that would involve, for example, I'd need some data on what this route is and what can appear in it and all that. I'd need some logic that handles making the trainer walk through the route. When does it start? When does it end? And when does a Pokemon appear? Like, okay, that's a percentage chance. How do we do that? What happens when a Pokemon appears? What's the chance of it being caught, breaking out, being shiny, whatever, all that stuff. And that might be broken into multiple chunks, and even then, a chunk you may have may be too big. So the main method I'm asking you guys to do in the route example that I completely lost my train of thought, sorry. The main route example has a large method for handling the encounter if it occurs. That can be pretty large, and the checkout method from the Pokemart can also be pretty large. Those can be confusing. So for those things, you might just have to, in your initial script, like when you're doing this initial pass over of the entire thing, say, okay, this function, the encounter function, causes the trainer to encounter and attempt to catch a Pokemon, and logs the results as appropriate and moves on, and leave it at that for a moment. So that's obviously not detailed enough to actually code it, but you have the core concept there, and get the other things that you need to get done first. So like the routes details. Then when you're ready to work with that, you need to think, okay, let's break this down into even smaller steps. So make that chunk the goal. So make that step 1 of a new script, basically. A small script. Break it up. That's the goal. break up the encounter method into its own little chunks. What do you need to do first? What do you need to do second, etc.? What arguments and information do we need to perform this task, etc.? And then you can code it because it becomes a lot easier. And yeah, so that's that idea. And of course, test your code and debugging your code. I don't think anyone's having a huge amount of trouble with that right now. You guys seem to be doing a mostly good job with that. And those of you who have not been doing it, I have been telling you guys you need to test your code and make sure it works properly. Not only does it not break when you run the code, and it also performs the correct operations and gives you the expected output. And, you know, if it's not working, you need to debug it, but you guys seem to know that. So, now, that's obviously a nice review and all, but that's not necessarily the most helpful. It's great to know that you can break down the larger chunks into their own little blocks that you could figure out, but let's actually get something even more useful out. So, a lot of you don't necessarily think in code, and like, that's fine. I can think more like a computer, I suppose. I just guess that's a knack I have, but a lot of people don't. So, one big tip I can give is you should write your script in English first. Basically, let's write an essay. I mean, what? But rather than being a boring English essay about the origin of pigs or whatever, this needs to be basically a bullet point list, or whatever you want, a list of how the script is going to work. So, let's run through one of these two assignments. Where we got a couple people here. How many of you how many of you have submitted the Pokemon assignment that are here? If you're in the Discord and just watching, feel free to poke me there, poke me on PS, poke me in chat, wherever. I would like a head count of any students who are here so I can try to do one if everyone's done. Hey, Taco Bell Meal, welcome to the stream. Okay, so Dawn's done the Pokemart. But yeah, I just basically want a head count to see if I should aim for routes or if I should aim for Pokemarts as the example here, because they'll both work. How's it going, man? And where is my thing? Let me double check. Alright. I'm gonna take that as whatever. I know Leaf's on Pokemon, but they're programming it, so why don't we do routes? Okay, so let me look here. Let me pull up my routes info here. Alright, route simulation. Let's go over this. So this is the script that's assigned for day 7's class. So Pokemon route simulation, the goal of this assignment is to simulate... Thank you for the follow, Taco Bell Meal. Thank you very much for that. Alright. The goal of this assignment is to simulate a player walking through tall grass / a cave / surfing on water in a location in a Pokemon game. So, for anyone who might not be familiar with that, in Pokemon games, your character walks through the overworld a lot, through routes or other locations, and in these locations, Pokemon can appear on certain tiles and caves. That's every tile on the surface of water, every tile otherwise in tall grass tiles. When you walk through them, there's a chance that a wild Pokemon will appear, and I don't remember the exact chance. It's not really that important for this assignment since we're not emulating the games exactly or anything like that. So this assignment is focused on objects, methods, which are functions stored in an object, and arrays, which are the last couple things we've learned here. So we have our overall idea here. Now let's look at our requirements. So you must have an object to contain information about the route / location that contains the following: A name property that holds the location's name, so like Sky Pillar or Route 112 or whatever you choose. Or you can make one up too, I don't really care. A property called grass or cave or water that contains an object. This object should have Pokemon names as properties, the Pokemon that can appear in this type of encounter. So if we had Route 112, then a grass property, grass, which contains an object, and then, I don't know, Ludicolo property, that would mean Ludicolo can appear on this route. I know that's not correct in the Pokemon games. This is an example, of course. The properties values, and that means the values of the properties for these Pokemon properties, should be an array with the 0th index being the minimum level the Pokemon species can appear at, and the first index being the max level the Pokemon species can appear at. So that would be like this, like 0th index, first index. All encounters should have a range of at least 3 levels inclusive. For example, 3 to 5, 18 to 20, 98 to 100. In other words, there has to be a 3-level range. The two numbers must have at least 1 between them. So yeah, that's the idea there for that. So that's one block. A method function that should be run at the time the simulated player takes a step. Run each time. So every time the player takes a step, run this function or method. It needs to be a method on this object. This is all within the route object up here. That's why the dashes are here. This method should take an argument which has the type of encounter the player would get if they get a Pokemon. One appears, grass, cave, or water. A percent of the time of your choosing, so like anywhere from 1% to 99%, whatever you choose, up to you. An encounter should occur. If one is going to occur, call the method that handles running encounters, and it says see below because that's defined right here. We get the requirements for that here. Another method function that should be called when the method that is run when the player takes a step, the one above that we just talked about, determines a Pokemon appeared. So if it says a Pokemon appears, when we call this one, we call this one, and ow, geez, what did I do? This method does the following. It should take an argument which has the type of encounter the player is about to experience, again, grass, cave, or water, and the method should randomly determine which Pokemon appears and at what level. So randomly pick one of the Pokemon from the route object and randomly pick a level from that range of levels provided. Log what Pokemon appeared at what level and the encounter type to the console. So like a wild level 15 Ludicolo appeared in the tall grass or whatever. You know? After logging the above, try to catch the Pokemon with a single Pokeball throw. Use a new method for this, see below, so we'll get to that in a second. Let's just keep going through this for now. If the Pokeball throwing method returns true, so that method needs to return a true or something else, true-false value, log that the Pokemon was caught. If not, log that the Pokemon broke out and fled. Okay, cool. A third method called when a Pokeball is thrown. That's the one we were talking about just above. This method takes no arguments and returns true if the Pokemon is caught and false if not. So it doesn't need to know what Pokemon it is because it's not going to include catch rates, meaning a Weedle is as easy to catch as a Mew. But again, simulation, and very basic one at that. Simply return true a percentage of the time of your choosing. So yes, a very simple function overall. So, more information here. It's quite a block of text, and we'll get to working with this in a moment. The simulated player should take 500 steps through the route, so we got to do this, run that step function 500 times, each of which can spawn a Pokemon, just like we said. You should keep track of how many Pokemon the player encountered and how many they caught. So, like you might say, you would have to keep track of that somewhere. At the start of the script, at the start of the part where we actually run this stuff, log that the player is entering the location. Use the name property when logging this, so like players entering route.name or whatever. You can phrase it in any way you want, as long as it makes sense. At the end, log that the player left the location, again using the name property. And then log how many Pokemon were encountered and how many were caught. There's 2 bonuses for this. one of them is for 50 steps, have the encounter type change from one type to another. So, for example, steps 1 through 250 is grass on whatever route. Steps 250 through 299 are water encounters, and step 300 to 500 are grass. If you did this bonus, that would mean you'd need to add data for other encounter types as well. The encounter types and levels should change as a result of this, which is obvious. Bonus 2, make it possible to encounter shiny Pokemon and record how many were encountered/caught. The base shiny rate in Gen 7 is 1 in 8,092. Feel free to use the shiny charm rate of 1 in 4,096 if you want. In other words, those are the rates in the legal game. For your reference, you can use whatever rate you please, though I do suggest using one of the two. I'd ended up using the charm rate and still never rolled a shiny in running the script many times in an attempt to get one. At the end of the script, and I did make sure it was working, at the end of the script, also log how many shiny Pokemon were encountered and caught, so add that to your log rolls. At the end, we have a few useful new tools given to you. Math.round number rounds, it takes one argument number and rounds number to the nearest integer using normal rounding rules. In other words, 0 through 4 is down, 5 through 9 is up. Basic math stuff. Math.floor rounds number down to the nearest integer. For example, 4.9999 will become 4. Math.seal number rounds number up to the nearest integer. EX 4.00001 will become 5. It always rounds up regardless, just like floor always rounds down. Math.random, which takes no arguments, returns a random number between 0 and 1, which is almost always not an integer, including 0 but not including 1. You'll never get 1 with math.random. And last but not least, for your convenience, if you put \n in a string, it acts like a line break, allowing you to space out content as you log to the console. Up to you if you want to use that. Hence, the usual don't repeat yourself reminder, and take your time in planning out what you need to do, and then turn it into code, then write the code. After that, test, debug, and improve your code. You may need to make use of the tools above to calculate levels and other things for this, along with math. Arrays are 0 indexed, meaning that in hello, world, that array, hello is located at index 0 and world is located at 1. So that's the basic assignment here. Now we're actually going to try to do it. That's quite a mouthful, and we are going to have to refer back to this later. So I am going to copy paste this and take it up to here where we're going to work on it. There we go. Alright, so we need to code this. Obviously, the obligatory use strict. And now let's look at this. So, we want to do this in English first so we know what we're doing. So, how would we do this in order is the first question. So, we have our overall goal and we have our many requirements, and we can refer to them at any time. Don't be afraid to go and refer to things or even write a design document like we're basically doing here. I'm going to write all my notes inside of this multi-line comment. You can always do it in a Word document or something, or a Google Doc or whatever, especially if you're going to share it with others like a design document. Not a bad idea at all. So we're going to do this. So we need to have an object that contains a route and it supports a name property, properties to store Pokemon information, a method that runs whenever the player takes a step, a method that's run whenever the player encounters a Pokemon, and a method that will check if a Pokemon was caught. So we need to create routes. So let's write this out. So first, create the route object. So that's going to have many steps. I'm going to split them into various little steps, so I'm not even going to do that, actually. And set up its name. So actually, let's not even do it in code. Let's just do it in English, complete English, like not even think about the code. So we need a section of data for the route. So create data for the route, including a name for it, I'm going to use a route. You guys can use a location. It's fine. Name for it, and what Pokemon appear and on what tiles and levels. So, let's do some of that. So, does anyone have a route they want to request me to do? Or a location in the Pokemon games? Let's see here. Alright, I'll take that as a no, and I have to pick one myself. Okay, let me just pull one up, I guess. Let's do... Where's my Gen 6? Not Gen 3. Gen 3's annoying. Yeah, sure. Let's do Sky Pillar. Why not? So we'll call it Sky Pillar, obviously. And let's see. This is Sky Pillar. Is a place that really only has cave tiles. You know, it's a cave-like environment. So encounter type would be cave, and encounters would be, let's see here. From the official thing for Gen 6, not including Horde or special encounters, we have Golbat from levels 44 to 46. We have Ariados from levels 44. Everything's 44 to 46, my gosh. Alright. Sableye, Mawile. I'm just going to use both. Can't spell Sableye though. 44 to 46. Mawile. 44 to 46. And the last one is Claydol, 44 to 46. Alright, cool. So, those are the Pokemon we're going to set for an encounter. I just went and pulled all this from Bulbapedia, but if you guys want to make something custom, go for it. It's up to you. Have fun with it, you know. So, that's what I did there. So, that's my data for the route object. I didn't write it out in any syntax. That's just, I know what I need to work with then. I know that's my data that I have to work with. So, because I need to write it out. Alright, great. Now we need a number of other things. So why don't we walk through the script in the order that we need these things to see how we can get them to interact. So, script in order. Script in order. And you might do your writing out in a different way. It's fine if you want to do it whatever way. If you want to create the methods before doing this, that's fine. So, log player has entered Sky Pillar. Okay. Alright, cool. Then let's see here. We're going to need to, for each step, and we can use it like a loop for this step, check if an encounter occurs. If one does, try to catch. If one does, log the Pokemon level if it's shiny and what encounter type it was. Try to catch the Pokemon. If we catch it, log, and I also need to, log that we caught it. Otherwise, log that it fled. Repeat 500 times. So that's my thought there. Then at the end we need to log how many Pokemon were encountered, caught, were shiny, and caught. So that's my English write-up of this, basically. And I'll center that on screen for you guys. Does that make sense at all? Does anyone have questions? Does, like, you guys understand that idea at all? Like, that's the core idea there. That's my overarching plan of it. Like, the individual methods, I need to write a more detailed thing, but that's the overarching plan. Alright, I'll assume that's a yes, I get it, but if you guys don't, please feel free to let me know. I will reply ASAP. So, next up, let's write out the details for some of these methods. So, method that is run for each step. So, let's say encounter rate. We need to pick a rate, and I'm going to make it 50%. Actually, I think I made it like 20% on my thing, so I'll just do that. So to make this work, we need to roll a random number between 0 and 99. If the number is less than 20, because 0 through 19 is 20 numbers, so that's 20%. And call the method that runs the, or even better, just say the encounter occurs. And see, that's a way to break it down. So I'm getting some PMs here. Let me check. All right, cool. Method that is run for an encounter. Okay, this one's going to be harder. All right, so we're going to break this down into order. So at this point, we know what type of encounter is happening, and that's because that's one of the arguments. And we know that one is encountering because this thing's being called. So now we need to actually do it. So our big order script here is if one does log the Pokemon level, if it's shiny and what encounter type it was, try to catch it, and then log if we caught it or not. All that needs to happen within this. So let's start with the first one. Log the Pokemon level if it's shiny and what encounter type it was. But first, we have only one of those done. We know what encounter type it is. First, we need to decide what Pokemon level and if it's shiny. So the first step would be randomly pick a Pokemon from the selected encounter type. So, like, if we had more encounters, so like, let's say we added a water encounters thing up to our data, and I don't know, I'm just gonna put in Meryl, and we'll make it 44 to 46 again, and I don't know, Gyarados, 44 to 46, I probably misspelled that, I don't care. Let's say there was 2. Well, you'd need to select the cave one if it's a cave step and a water one if it's a water step. I get it's Sky Pillar, but example again. Randomly pick a Pokemon for selected encounter type. Alright, so we know what Pokemon we have now. We'll get to the details of getting that little step down when we get into the code, because I feel that's small enough to just think about in terms of code rather than English, because that's about as close as we're going to get. If you feel that's too broad, maybe break it down more, see if you can. If you can't and you still don't know what to do with it, that might just be you don't understand the syntax. But one tip I have for both of these assignments is you're going to need to use math quite a bit. It's based on math. Bring out those algebra textbooks, guys. Except we're not solving for x, we have a multivariable equation, and the variables are quite literally variables that you already have. You don't need to solve for x or whatever. Anywho, So we know what it is. So now we need to randomly pick a level that is supported by the Pokemon, and specific. So that would be like a math equation. So we know the thing has a min and a max. So like the min for all these is 44 and the max is 46. There's a way to pick a random number between one number and another. There's a math equation for that. You can calculate it actually. But yeah, my tip there is basically take min and add a random number to that. A random amount between 0 and 1 less than the number of numbers that you can move through. So like in this case I'd do 44 plus either 0, 1, or 2. 0 would give me 44, 1 would give me 45, and 2 would give me 46. Now there's a way to do that even, like if I didn't have them all matching like this, or even some that have higher ranges, I couldn't just do times 2. Like here, I'll even change this a bit to make it harder. So we can't do that or whatever. So now it's too hard to do that. And instead we would have to actually just check and figure out that difference between the two numbers, and that's the idea of it. You want to be able to do that, make your script flexible enough to do that, basically. What you should be able to do, here's a hint, if you take the max away from the minimum, you might get that value. It's a big hint, but whatever. So randomly pick a level. So now we have 2 out of 3 of those things we need to, 3 out of 4 actually. And now lastly, if you're doing the shiny bonus, you'll need shiny, otherwise you have what you need. So randomly roll a number between 0 and, I'm going to do the standard. I'm not gonna, well, I did cheaper in the other one. I'll do standard here, 8092, 0 and 8091, and check if it rolls one specific number. It's shiny if it does. That's 1 in 8092. You guys gotta remember, math.random includes 0 but not 1. So if you want to do it between 1 and whatever, you have to add 1 to your result. Alright, so log information. So that information is above. I'm not going to type it all out again. So now we've logged that. Great, we completed that step. And we have all this information still. So now we try to catch it. So call method to check if Pokemon is caught, which we'll write the details for that method a little later. So all we know right now is we're gonna make it return. It returns true if it's caught, and the obvious would be make it return false if it doesn't get caught. There's no point in returning anything else. So all we need to know is that this method returns true if it's caught. If it returns true, caught, log that it's caught and increment caught tracker. I suppose we can also increment encounter tracker. We gotta track that. If it's shiny, increment shiny encounter tracker. Again, if it's shiny, increment shiny caught tracker. If it fails, log that it fled. So that's the end of that. That's the end of that, and since we're probably going to use a loop or something for the 500 steps, we don't need to return anything here. At least I don't feel that this needs to return anything. It already logged all the information to variables or whatever. You could use return values or whatever if you wanted to, and you could think of a way to do it. There's plenty of ways to do this. So method that is run to try and catch a Pokemon. So for this one, we need to percent chance to catch. We need to have a percent chance for that. And I did 50%. You can do whatever you like. I did 50% for everything. So again, roll a number between 0 and 99, and return number is less than or less than 50. If you return numbers less than 50, if you return a statement like that, JavaScript will evaluate the statement and simplify it to true or false first, and then return that. So that should return true, false. So simple enough. The return value is used by whatever calls it, and if it ignores the value, you just did nothing, basically. This is one of those methods that doesn't do anything other than return a value. And we also have to make sure arguments and counter type. Again, arguments and counter type. Alright, so we have all this logged out, really, at this point. We have our overarching thing, some data, and details on each of the methods. And that is really the whole idea there. Now it's just as simple as turning it into code. So, like, Leaf, I know I sit and talk to you a lot about stuff. Do you think you would, with what was written out in English here, be able to just turn this into code? As an example, JavaScript code, I mean, of course. Let me scroll down just a touch so it's more visible. Assuming Leaf is still here. Well, okay, syntax is a bit different, but yeah. Okay, but you understand the concepts at least, and if you knew the syntax, you'd be able to do it, right? Syntax help I can help with here in Plan 2. Alright, well, but yeah, I think I'll take that as a yes, I suppose. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's start writing. I don't know if I want to write this out or not for you guys, but as a syntax review for you, Leaf, I'll pull up the objects thing here. So, like, you can create an object like this. Let object equal new set of curly braces. Let is, of course, declaring a variable, and obj is going to hold it. Dot notation to access a property, obj dot property. And you can set it to whatever you want. Same bracket notation is with brackets and with a string or variable that contains a string or number or whatever inside of it. And again, you can use to access or set values. And again, bracket notation is shown here. Let prop equal shrimp, which is this up here. It's been set to 5. Obj bracket prop. Prop is shrimp, so it's obj brackets shrimp, which should give 5. Of course, that logs object, which should give you shrimp 5, clam 7. And again, you can just stick things in there, so like this again. Delete object.property or use bracket notation to delete things. You can also declare objects with things already in them, like we did here with obj2, which has pear set to 6, orange set to 32, and cherry set to 42. And again, we'll log it here, obj.pair. And you can loop through an object if you need to with let property in whatever object it is. So I used the actual name property here, but you could use something else. Where's my functions? For functions, it's a block of code for a actual function instead of a method. The syntax is function, name, any arguments you want in here, and then your code in here. Arguments can have a name of whatever you want, and whatever the order you call them in will be what it is. Your num value, or whatever, you can have default arguments like this, like, oh dear. Like num equal 1 means num will default to 1 if nothing's provided. Return, it signals the end of a function and returns whatever is after it, or undefined if nothing, so calling the function will be equivalent to that. In this case, it returns the value of num increased by 1. So, for example, over here, we set x to the return value of the function plus plus passed with an argument of 6, which will be 7, because plus plus 6 is the arg. Num represents whatever's put in, so num is 6, return plus plus 6, in other words 7. And the plus plus has to be before, so it works properly here. So that's 7. Again, you can have multiple arguments, separate them with comma, calc area, return x times y. Methods are functions located inside of objects, so this is valid. Normally you can do something like this. That's also valid. That's a valid way to declare it if it's more clear that way, but this is a shorter way at least. You could just stick it right in there. Sum is the property, and the value is a function that takes 3 values, a, b, and c, and adds them together. And like y is going to return that y function or whatever. I don't know, I'll change its name to minus 7, and of course if I'm going to make this work, it has to actually have a value in there. So that would make it more clear there at least. So, and then I did some examples here, but I'm not going to go over this again right now. But the shop example, again, the crazy tomato you keep complaining to me about even after the stream, where you have properties, and this one explains that this keyword where inside of a method such as calculate cost, this keyword will refer to whatever object the method belongs to, so shop in this case. So this.corn refers to shop.corn. It's basically the same thing, which refers to 5. And again, you'd have a bunch of arguments. In this case, it just multiplies all the arguments by their respective costs to return the whole cost there. And console.logs that. So that's a quick review. I'd be happy to sit down with you personally and go over your syntax with you, but I don't want to dig too much into that on stream at least. I'm assuming that's helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions, Leaf. I'd be happy to answer them in stream chat or anywhere else you feel like. I'll go ahead and save these changes to the functions file. As for me, turning this into code, I think I'm going to pass so I don't ruin the assignment. But I do have something else to do. So, I'd like you guys to try to tackle the Pokemart, if you haven't already, with this setup, and tackle route with this kind of setup yourself. Write it out yourself. I'm not going to give you what I wrote in English. Preferably don't just copy-paste what I did unless you're totally lost. Yeah, so I'm sure you guys can figure it out. You can always come to me if you can't figure it out, though, because I understand it's frustrating and such. Alright, so suppose we could go for a bit of impromptu example. I don't have an exact example prepared for you guys. Yes, I actually do have a Discord. It's available here. There's a stream notifications role in there if that's easier to get notified for streams that way that you can request. And if you're interested in the class, here's the information document, which I did not update before the stream, unfortunately, so it doesn't have today's stream listed. Either way, be handled soon. So I think what I want to do here, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what I want to do is I want to show programming as something I'm working on so you guys can get the idea of what I'm doing here better. Let me see. let me double check something real quick before we do that, and then we can go ahead and do that. I just need to pull my design document, or not a document heck. Right, okay, sure, we'll do this specifically here. That's one small thing, that should be plenty. It's not, well, it's not super tiny, but that should be plenty here. Alright, so, let me make, this is a Discord related thing, so I'm actually going to make this and do this in my code editor server, but for the moment I'm going to merge all my other stuff into a folder and just drop it there for later so I don't accidentally go into it. Alright, cool. And welcome to the Discord, by the way. Alright, cool. Just one moment while I adjust my setup so you guys can see what the heck I'm doing and make sure streamer mode is on. Yes, good. Okay, excellent. Let's get rid of that. Where's my remove option? Right, remove that image. Add window capture. New. Not what the heck is that anyways? Discord, I believe, would be showing properly here. I hope. You know, it's just not going to cooperate whatsoever. Alright, 2 secs, it doesn't like me. I think I'm going to reboot Discord just to make it work. But I would like you to see what we can actually do here. I will. Also make a channel that everyone can see, but only I and my bot can send messages in. Alright, let's shrink this down so it fits within the screen. Alright, cool. That fits now. And properties, capture. Oh, it does not like me, apparently. Let me check this real quick, guys. It'll just be 2 minutes. Wait, are you guys actually... Yeah, you're seeing it, okay. I'll hide that then. Dude, I forgot me and my big brain. OBS can't capture. Yeah, again, like with the scripting, Google is your friend, so OBS can't capture Discord. Open Discord setting appearance, disable hardware set acceleration reboot. Okay. Alright, let me go ahead and modify my settings real quick here, and then this should work. Settings appearance. Yep, and it's gonna auto reboot for me. Alright, so we'll be up in just a moment here. Let me go ahead and try to get the sizing done right in the meantime. Okay, cool. And looks like we're all set here. And I'm gonna lock it into place and see if this shows up. Hello! There we are. Alright, cool. Whoever's PMing me needs to wait. Kraken, I know you're in here. Oh, he's not. Let me yell at him. Just tell him I can't reply. I'm streaming Discord, and then have him yell at me because I did reply. Okay, let's actually get some stuff done. Alright, this is a channel, and I think I actually already have the bot in this server, so let me see here. No, it's not in this server. Okay, I'm going to have to invite it real quick, so give me just a moment to do that. Where's my Discord developer portal? But the idea is I am currently programming a Discord bot for various purposes. And if I could go to my application, bot, we'll just update its ack and save. Okay, cool. Now, where's my information? Okay, I need my client ID, I believe, ack. I don't remember how to make this link, but I will authenticate it to a server. There's my link, that should tell me. Yeah, okay, come on. Installing, I don't care. Where's the link? Adding your bot to server, that's what I want. Okay, so authorize client ID equal whatever, and I can get that easily. So copy client ID and scope equal bot. Okay, that should work then, and there it is. Authorize a bot to a server. Where is the code editor? No, I'm not a robot. The robot's a robot. Come on. Yay, there he is. Okay, let's give him permission to speak in here. Alright, now we're ready to go. Okay, so he's dead right now because he's not booted up. He's in here though. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. Let me actually, I'm just